I don't have clinical. We saw no cardiac abnormalities first wave, and now we just see endless. Yeah, very little kidney failure this time. I know, it's very different disease. Huh?
Jerry, maybe I'm just going to sort the notes out.
Early February, and the virus has sapped hospital resources.
Did you do this one already, or should we do this?
That's done, yeah.
Perfect.
And staff energy.
I've got the relatives coming to bed 24.
But there are subtle signs of change. One of them, the arrival of Alison Neagle at the hospital, dropped off by husband Tony.
How are you feeling, Tony?
Apprehensive and nervous.
Yeah.
But, you don't get any more nervous than this.
It's been 18 months, so let's hope this is the one.
With COVID admissions continuing to fall, a limited number of desperately needed operations can be resumed.
I've got a rare genetic disorder called polycystic liver disease, and it's got to a point now where transplant is the only option to sort of cure me.
In 12 months, the number of people in England waiting more than a year for hospital treatment has risen from 1,600 to more than 300,000. At the Royal Free, the liver department shut down entirely during the second COVID wave.
They rang me from the Royal Free and said that unfortunately the people on the variant list were being suspended. I thought I was very kind of strong mental health wise, but it turns out that actually you can only take so much.
Are you okay, Phil? What's your name, Paul? Alison.
Well, it's very frustrating. It's also, devastating for the patients. These are patients with end-stage liver disease who have a very short life expectancy on the liver transplant waiting list, and we know that patients die on the waiting list.
Basically, my liver's about 3 or 4 times the size it should be, plus it's covered in cysts and they're full of fluid, so it weighs a couple of stone, where it should only weigh a few pounds.
Alison's transplant depends on several factors, on the donor liver being a match, on the hospital's ability to muster a surgical team, and crucially, finding space in intensive care for her recovery.
So at the moment we're taking 6 COVID beds out.
I think we also got to be aware that if our numbers were to increase again, we'd flip it back. We'd have to flip it back to a cohorted COVID area again. Hello, my spirit.
Cold.
Well, yes, Steve, this is great timing. I'm just sitting with Sinead, just going through the bed state. We still have a lot of COVID patients. We're still way over 200% of our normal ICU capacity. And as you've seen this morning, we're having to accept patients in from around London to relieve stresses on other departments.
A substantial amount of hospital activity has had to stop for COVID. And so across the country, the waiting list for treatment is growing fast. People still have heart attacks, kidney failure, tumours. The Royal Free and Barnet conducted nearly 500 emergency operations in the month we were filming. But COVID complicates everything.
We want to protect those patients who don't have COVID. We had a patient who required ITU the other day, and in fact it would have been easier if he'd had COVID because there were beds for him on the COVID ward, but they then had to try and create a bed on the non-COVID ITU. So that's a real challenge.
It's why the makeshift COVID ward we visited 3 weeks earlier is now being cleaned. To make space for the massive backlog in treatments and operations for those without the virus. For Alison, there is a space. The liver is a match. Her transplant can go ahead.
You can take some nice deep breaths in and out.
Most of the people in this room are among 500 staff at the hospital who've adapted their roles and worked extra hours on COVID wards. It's late at night, but this is what they're trained for.
Have you ever known a time like this?
No, I think this is about as sharp as civilian medicine would ever get. From an ITU perspective, there's almost no end in sight. We have a large group of coronavirus patients who need care and support, which will be a long process. Sadly, we have more coronavirus patients to come. We have to work our way through the operations that have not been done that needed to be done. And then after that, of course, there's the very real impact of as the scans start and the conditions that haven't been detected really over the past 12 months, they will come to need management as well. That's going to keep the Royal Free Intensive Care units running at well above where they were before, probably indefinitely.
About an hour into the operation, the liver arrives, packed in ice. A gift from someone who's just died, inside a cool box. The chance for Alison to have a normal life. And just a day after, she's well enough to reflect on what's happened.
Hello. How are you doing?
Okay.
How do you feel having someone else's liver inside you?
It's just amazing. It's such a privilege. Someone's family member has had to, it's such a difficult time for them. It's such a privilege.
Just corridors away, many are still fighting the virus, kept alive by machines and round-the-clock care. And thousands like Alison still wait for these beds and the attention of these diverted medics. So while life slowly starts to get back to normal outside of these walls, it may never in here.
If I could magically stop coronavirus now, you say, right, no more coronavirus patients, how long would it take you to get back to normal?
I don't think we'll ever get back to normal. I can't see how we're going to return to the Royal Free ITU as it was at the end of 2019. I think that's now history.
The medics, nearly broken themselves, have to pick up the pieces. Behind the mask, how are they feeling?
I think it's been just such a phenomenally high pressure environment, and we've all been witness to some really unbelievably horrible things with critically ill patients, and just so many of them, that it's going to take a long time to process and a long time to get over.
You say you need a break. Is that even possible at the moment?
No.
A lot of us don't go home feeling like we've done a good job, and I think that's one of the hardest things to take away from coronavirus, for me especially, just that feeling that you couldn't do enough for people, and it's really difficult.
It felt like the care part went, and I feel ashamed to say it was like we were managing bodies. We were trying to keep bodies alive. So I've been in nursing for 20 years. This is like another level, like flashbacks through the night, or a sound will trigger something. Yeah, I'm not very good at the moment.
At least you've got
Something to look at.
something to look at.
I saw a red bus today, my first red bus, which is just down there where that motorbike is.
Dima is getting ready to go home.
I did have a down day on Tuesday. It just sort of hit me that how ill I was.
Yeah.
And I just felt a little down, but I was okay after that, thinking, I'm just lucky that I'm alive. And I just kept saying to myself, please, I need to get strong. I don't belong here, just to try and get myself, motivated, because I just wanted to get myself a lot better.
When she does recover, Dima will return to her job as an NHS caterer for patients on wards.
I think we've learned a phenomenal amount from the COVID pandemic. I think, we've managed to upscale our intensive care facilities and provision beyond our wildest dreams. I think a year and a bit ago, if you'd told me we were going to have 95 patients on intensive care at the Royal Free, I would have said it was totally impossible.
I'm more concerned about what's going to happen after. I think trouble comes when things start settling down, and we'll see how deep is the scar that is going to be in the nursing team and the medical team.
Is that the thing that you find the hardest to grapple with, that you feel like you haven't been able to provide the care that you would have liked to have been able to provide?
Yeah, to the point